of social platforms built on the legendary toy brick are now growing. CGTN's Julie Shire caught up with some Lego fans at a recent brick fair event in South Africa.
Lego is no longer a box of bricks that fit together. These little parts can be turned into fascinating structures and given life. Eben Esterhuizen has been a Lego technique builder for 31 years.
1981, when I was 7 years old, I got my first Technique set as a birthday gift. And I was very intrigued with it, because Technique is different from the Lego system. The Lego system is the normal bricks that just sits together with clutch power, where the Technique system works with pins and axles, and there's a lot of movement and mechanical parts involved.
There's no money to be made, but Esterhuizen loves the challenge of building an idea he's conceptualized.
So I call this the stack and jack. When I thought of this design, I wanted to build a great ball contraption that is stackable vertically. Because if you look at the rest of the table, most of the modules fit together horizontally. If you look at the different color schemes, it's the 4 different modules that's stacked on this one. And anybody can use the instructions that I'm creating, and they can build their own module with their own parts, and it will literally fit on there and it'll work straight away.
The technical mastermind is one of 250 exhibitors and social builders group at the annual Brick Fair in Pretoria. More children are also taking it up as a serious hobby.
I like to build Lego because it's exciting, it's fun to build, and plus at the end, after all that hard work, you achieve something beautiful.
Lego is fun because you get to imagine what it would look like in real life and make it as close as possible by using different bricks and blocks to create the effect that it's real. So like my exhibition here is on Star Wars. I made it as surreal as possible.
The legendary toy brick has become an important tool to enhance creativity and learning among young people while they play.
They're learning, firstly, fine motor skills. They start with Duplo bricks from a young age, which is bigger for smaller kids with smaller hands to handle, and they can't obviously put it in their ears or swallow it. And from there, move on to smaller brick. And then from there, learn Lego robotics.
Whatever you imagine has come to life here at this fair. It's a hive of activity with Lego builders from around the country showing off their wild creations. Julie Shire, CGTN, Pretoria, South Africa.
You're watching Global Business Africa. Let's take a short break, but still coming up on the show. The European Central Bank's Christine Lagarde pens signature for use in new banknotes. And the clothing resale market booms in the US as more and more Americans buy second-hand clothes.
Data of the country. The country's foreign currency reserves.
With a dedicated and diverse team of anchors, CGTN now brings Africa to the palm of your hand.
I'm Perina Karibe in the heart of Nairobi, which is bustling.
From everyday heroes to the continent's most powerful figures, we bring their voices to you.
We haven't changed. And this is something most of us are very excited about.
We bring you news that's changing perspectives.
I'm Uche Okoronkwo reporting from Nairobi's city center.
News that brings Africa to the world. CGTN. See the difference.
Here's a recap of other headlines this hour. Heavy rains continue to pound various parts of the continent, leaving destruction in their wake. At least 41 people have died in the Democratic Republic of Congo due to flooding. In Kenya, the number of deaths following a landslide in the western part continues to rise. Now, authorities say the number is anywhere between 52 and 60. As rescue efforts continue, thousands have been left homeless. Two former prime ministers of Guinea-Bissau have advanced to the second round of a presidential election. According to the country's electoral commission, the incumbent president Jose Mario Vaz finished a distant fourth. Former prime ministers Domingos Simões Pereira and Umaro Sisiko Embalo garnered 40% and 28% of the votes cast respectively. The runoff vote will be held late next month. And in Namibia, the ruling party is facing tough competition in national polls. President Hage Geingob is seeking re-election following a first term which was marred by an economic downturn. He was in a jovial mood as he voted at a primary school in Windhoek. And the United Nations is appealing for calm in the city of Beni in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Angry residents have been protesting against UN peacekeepers and government troops. Now, they burnt a UN office, forcing staff at the UN mission to be redeployed to other areas for their safety. They accuse peacekeepers and government troops of failing to protect them from ADF rebel group. The Ugandan group has carried out a series of deadly attacks in the area. And that's a recap of today's top headlines. Now, on the international front, the European Central Bank's new president, Christine Lagarde, says that the existing trust in the euro currency needs to be protected as well as enriched. Lagarde was speaking after she gave her signature that will appear on future euro banknotes. Every euro banknote bears the signature of the institution's president. Notes currently in circulation carry that of Mario Draghi, whose term ended last month. Lagarde added that 79% of transactions in the Eurozone are conducted in cash. Now, those account for more than half the value of all transactions. Currently, there are about 23 billion banknotes in circulation, worth $1.39 trillion. One third of this is being used outside the 19-nation Eurozone.
Our banknotes reflect a more fundamental development, which is the decades-long effort to bring Europe closer together. In a union of diverse countries, it is inherently more difficult to foster a common identity and a sense of shared destiny. We have different languages, we have different cuisine, we have different history, although we share quite a lot of it. But what we all have in common is the currency, the euro, those banknotes.
Well, let's move on now. German car maker Audi is set to cut more than 9,500 jobs. That's about a fifth of its total workforce. The company says it is restructuring to expand its electric vehicle operations. Now, this comes just months after other major car producers such as BMW and VW also announced large job cuts. Here's Sarah Walton reporting from Frankfurt.
The majority of jobs that will be lost from Audi will be traditional manufacturing jobs, and that's because the company is trying to restructure and move towards more electric car production. The sites being targeted for these job losses are the company's two main factories in Germany, and they are in Ingolstadt and Neckarsulm. And this represents job losses for about 15% of the company's workforce here in Germany. The jobs, though, will be lost over a period of 5 years. The company says they will be done through attrition, so that means things like not replacing people who leave the company naturally, although there will be some voluntary measures such as early retirement. The company has been working with unions for some time now, negotiating over several months to agree the terms of these job losses before this could be announced today. Audi, though, is planning to create 2,000 jobs. They, though, will be in a different area of the company's production. They will be in the areas of electric car making and digital development. The company hopes that the job losses will help it save about 6 billion euros, and that money will be reinvested into those areas of the company. And there is some hope that people who are facing the loss of their job could be retrained to move into those sectors. Some good news, though, that was announced for the remaining 50,000 employees Audi has in Germany. They have been told that the guarantees for their jobs has been extended to 2029. Now, Audi is by no means the only major car company that has been announcing big job losses already. So far this year, we've heard from BMW, VW and Ford announcing a total of 25,000 jobs that they will be shedding over the next couple of years. And that is because the car industry is having to adapt to major changes. On one side, they are seeing a slowdown in global trade. Car makers are selling fewer cars, so they're making less money. At the same time, these companies are having to spend more money to change their production lines, to change their factories into sites that are able to produce electric cars. And that is because as of January the 1st next year, new vehicles produced in Europe will have to meet much stricter CO2 emissions regulations. So it is a difficult time for all areas of the car industry at the moment. Sarah Walton, CGTN, Frankfurt.
Now, the African swine fever continues to wreak havoc in China and across large parts of Asia. Although it's not a threat to human health, it is highly contagious and deadly for pigs. Well, China's pig population has been drastically culled, leading to a shortage of pork in the country. That has led to a rise in global pork prices, but American farmers are largely missing out. Here's CGTN's Dan Williams reporting.
US pork production is at an all-time high, but farmers here say they are missing out on the huge market potential of China. African swine fever has decimated at least 40% of China's pig population, leading to a chronic pork shortage there. Although China lifted trade tariffs on US pork imports in September, so far US producers remain far behind the likes of Germany and Spain in supplying China's pork.
Well, there's been frustration for about 2 years as we've seen these trade wars go on. We've been behind the curve with Japan when we withdrew from TPP. And this African swine fever has been bubbling in China, and we knew there were opportunities there. And we see competitors get a leg up on the shelf space in China, if you will.
A study by the US National Pork Producers Council says the China pork market could be worth $24.5 billion within 10 years if US producers gain unrestricted access. Pat Bain has been raising pigs on his farm for 35 years.
This is a little girl.
The uncertainty over China-US trade could soon be resolved, with talks continuing over a Phase 1 deal. And that, Bain says, would be welcome news for the industry.
We're at a very high level of production in the industry in the United States. I would say if we get it, we will find a source for this to market this pork. If we don't, we're probably looking at a restriction in the industry and a decrease in prices.
US pork farmers have taken some strain in recent years, weighed down by the various trade disputes. But the industry as a whole has fared better than other US agricultural sectors, thanks in part to the success of finding replacement markets.
Although pork exports fell by almost 4% during the trade dispute, an increase in exports to countries including Colombia, South Korea and Vietnam helped offset those losses. But those markets are dwarfed by demand in China.
I don't even know what victory in this trade war looks like now. There's that sense of frustration. What has been accomplished with this? What has been gained? Would have there been a more productive way to do it? The rest of the world continues to move ahead without us.
African swine fever in China and other parts of Asia has seen the worldwide price of pork escalate. Global pork suppliers are preparing to cash in, but so far it would appear that American pork farmers are largely on the sidelines. Dan Williams, CGTN, Arrowsmith, Illinois.
Meanwhile, the clothing resale market is booming in the US as more and more Americans buy second-hand clothes. Retailers and brands are taking notice with mixed reactions. CGTN's Karina Huber reports from New York.
Rachel Ford is passionate about fashion. She also likes a good deal, which is part of why she has become a regular user of online luxury consignment site, The Real Real.
Both of these came from The Real Real. I'd say each of them were $40.
As the president of a media agency that creates content for brands, looking trendy is part of the job description.
I like to recycle through clothing so that I'm always keeping it fresh, but not necessarily spending a ton of money to do so.
Ford likes to shop on the site, but she mainly uses it to resell her clothing. She says she gets about 50% of her purchase price back if it's in good condition.
The money back is not as crucial to me as just the fact that there's some place that these clothes can go that's not harming the environment. Hopefully someone else is getting joy out of them and it frees up my closet for something new.
A growing number of U.S. consumers feel the same as Ford.
The RealReal is one of the dominant players in the luxury consignment market, but thrift stores are also doing well as the market for used clothing is expanding. By 2028, it is expected to balloon to $64 billion.
That's according to online consignment retailer ThredUp. Department stores have taken notice, which is why Macy's has teamed up with ThredUp to create secondhand experiences in some of their stores. Some luxury brands have begun to embrace resale sites, but not Chanel. It launched a lawsuit against the RealReal, claiming the site has no way of authenticating the Chanel handbags sold on the site. The RealReal denies the claims and says it's a veiled attempt to stop people from reselling their handbags. Retail analyst Bert Flickinger believes luxury has no reason to be threatened by sites like the RealReal.
It gets more people in the branded entry-level price points who will ultimately migrate up to Hermes or Chanel or whomever the luxury brand retailer is when that person has some more disposable income.
The circular economy of buying and reselling clothing and accessories is only expected to grow, which means brands and retailers have no choice but to adapt. Karina Huber, CGTN, New York.
Now, with the ongoing advancements in the fields of artificial intelligence and robotics, there has been an attached skepticism of what this means for future jobs as well as employment. Back in 2017, China laid out its roadmap to become a leader in AI by the year 2030. But for the world's second largest economy, this may have significant implications on its labor market. CGTN's Omar Khan spoke with one AI tech firm that's looking to quell those fears.
As real as he may look, this TV anchor is designed and programmed through artificial intelligence by Shenzhen-based tech firm Jui. Perhaps a worrisome reality for current-day anchors, AI is becoming more and more relevant in our everyday lives. For the tech firms specializing in the emerging field, they've developed solutions to help companies with their own services.
Our core tech is natural language processing, and we focus on the next generation of intelligent interaction. We provide companies with AI digital employees. We believe that enterprises will recruit a large number of digital employees in the future because they have unique advantages when it comes to management. They also have a cost advantage, costing 1/12 of a human worker.
With offices in China, Singapore, and Belarus, Jui is offering solutions in various sectors, from banking and travel to customer service-oriented products. Their machine learning and AI are able to operate around the clock. But how will this impact the labor market? And what's the outlook when it comes to technology replacing human workers?
After AI came out, many people were worried if AI would replace human work and create unemployment. But from our specific practice, we think AI is creating new types of jobs. New AI trainers are becoming a job. They help digital employees with training and developing procedures. All industries where AI digital employees are established will ultimately need AI trainers.
Wu also believes that technology and human learning, at least at its current stage, is more suitable for specific tasks.
AI is suitable for simple, repetitive, and high-accuracy work. Human employees are more suitable for creative, social, and caring work, so there are actually different scopes of application. In our practice, we do the same. AI digital employees do some simple and inefficient work. After releasing human employees from the previous inefficient work, human employees can do more complex and creative work.
According to a report by China's State Council, the country's core AI industries are expected to exceed $22 billion by next year. Meanwhile, China is leading the way in research and the commercial application of advanced technology.
We believe that China will be the largest application market of AI in the future,
I also see that China has attracted a large number of overseas AI scholars for development, and many returnees prefer to come back to China. At DreE Technologies, we now have more than 50 returnees who have played an important role in R&D.
With AI and other human learning technologies slowly making inroads into various fields and sectors, a sense of assurance remains for many, knowing that companies are keeping in mind the potential and future impacts. Omar Khan, CGTN, Shenzhen.
And shifting focus now, let's take a look at how commodities performed today. Oil prices easing slightly after an industry report showed a surprise buildup in U.S. crude inventories. However, hopes around the signing of the first phase of a U.S.-China trade deal did prevent a bigger drop in prices. Meanwhile, gold prices edged lower today, still on hopes of a U.S.-China trade deal, which of course has boosted demand for riskier assets in the market. Let's take a short break now, still to come. We'll bring you the secret ingredients in a West African chocolatier's success.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. And no one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
Now, in South Africa, Cape Town is widely regarded as one of the world's top tourist destinations, but not all of its residents are sharing in its success. Rising rent prices are excluding multiple generations out of their traditional neighborhoods, leaving them no choice but to occupy abandoned buildings. Let's take a look.
Bever Lucas never imagined that his doctor's old office at Cape Town would one day be his bedroom. The 57-year-old activist is one of around 1,400 people occupying a disused hospital and an abandoned nurse's home. Lucas says it's not easy to live in Woodstock Hospital, but he and the other occupiers are trying to rebuild their uprooted communities, giving the corridors and rooms the names of the streets on which they once lived.
The occupation itself has never been designed for a living space. It's been designed for a hospital. We've transformed it into a living space, and we've also assisted people to be able to navigate how that transition has to take place, but also how to live with each other in a very not so private space, and how to deal with some of those challenges that arises out of that.
Hailed as a top global tourist destination, this is Cape Town's less appealing side. Evicted families, homeless people and refugees seeking shelter in an abandoned building. The city is considered the third most racially segregated city in South Africa, according to government data. With most of the white population living in leafy neighborhoods, while its poorest, majority black, are scattered in over 200 informal settlements on the outskirts. But Malusi Boy, a member of Cape Town's Mayoral Committee for Human Settlements, said occupying buildings was not a solution.
I sympathize with everybody that is vulnerable, that there's no accommodation or a place to live, but I cannot allow anarchy to exist.
Part of the frustration comes from a decision in 2017 to sell a piece of public land in an affluent suburb to a private developer. Activists say such areas should be developed to help plug the housing gap. Boy said the city had conducted a feasibility study on the Woodstock Hospital to earmark it for future social housing. But with 300,000 people currently on the waiting list for social housing in Cape Town, those affected say they will do what they have to reclaim their city. Daniela Pearson, CGTN.
Now, in South Africa, a group called Reclaimers recycle 80 to 90% of trash in the country. They save authorities up to $53 million in landfill costs. But despite that, their efforts are not formally recognized. CGTN Sumitra Naidu now explores how one young man is trying to change that.
Every day, millions of people throw out their rubbish. Luyanda Shletshwayo sets out daily at the crack of dawn to rummage through this trash. For Shletshwayo and thousands of other waste pickers, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
I got to be a reclaimer after looking for many jobs. I couldn't find any jobs. A friend of mine introduced me and just came, told me, well, come, let's go and see how we can hustle. And the first day was the worst day. And the first time you opened the bin, I was like, no. Then the need for money actually arose more when you start needing really money to start even eat. And I've got a daughter that I need to support on a monthly basis. I had to make a decision. I took my pride put aside. This is a couple of years later.
South Africa has been slow to recycling. The majority of households are not separating their trash at all. But this has created opportunities for poor, unemployed individuals. There are now over 6,000 waste pickers in Johannesburg.
There's a lot of stigma that goes with the work that we do. There's a lot of hate words that will come out on a daily basis. There's just this separation from society, you know. We started engaging with the residents, and they understood exactly that the importance of the work that we do has a huge influence on their community.
Shletshwayo had to drop out of university after studying finance for 2 years because he had no money. He's made peace with that and is now looking at recycling as his future. He started the Reclaimers organization to formalize waste pickers in South Africa.
African Reclaimers organization is started by Reclaimers in 2016. That was when the city was officially launching their separation at source program, which had a bad influence on us because they were giving private contractors right of access and exclusive rights to collecting materials. We've been asking the city of Johannesburg to help us with the registration drive to start collecting data. And the response that we got, they said, yes, they can do registration, but they can only do registration for South African people only. That's only calculating 20% of the reclaimers, which was not fair.
The city of Johannesburg recently won the prestigious Waste Pickers Integration Award for Sustainable Development. The city is now realizing and recognizing the waste pickers and the critically important role they play. Sumitra Naidu, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
And finally, a master chef in Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou, is changing the game by turning everyday cooking ingredients into heavenly delights. Now, the secret to his award-winning chocolatier success is adding typical West African products such as moringa leaves, hibiscus flowers, as well as sumbala to his chocolate. CGTN's Terry Wangari has his story.
Confectionery lovers deem chocolate as the paradise of sweet tooths. In Burkina Faso, an award-winning chef is diversifying the parameters of this art by using typical ingredients all sourced from home.
We use hibiscus flower, which we call bisa, white or red. We also use mangoes, dried mango, dried pineapple, and our latest revolutions, we use sombala, which is also an antidepressant.
The 47-year-old is the only artisanal chocolate maker in Burkina Faso. What makes him outstanding is the use of his favorite ingredient, moringa. In 2016, he won the award for the best chocolate maker in Africa that was held in Côte d'Ivoire. Despite not having access to the best chocolate making tools, he had a competitive advantage over the others.
Here in Burkina Faso, we call moringa the tree of paradise, Azantiga, and all the benefits from the plant confirm this name. Moringa has all the nutritious elements you need for growth, maintenance, and also to heal some illnesses like tension, diabetes, and many other sicknesses.
It is special that he is working in an area that is practically non-existent in Burkina Faso. So honestly, I respect this man. In Burkina Faso, we don't grow cocoa. There is not even a cocoa processing plant. Nothing at all.
Being the only chocolatier in the country doesn't offer him the competition that he relishes. He is particularly keen in training new chocolate and cake makers and impart his unique knowledge to the next generation. To achieve this, Andre hopes to one day fund a culinary training center in Burkina Faso. Terry Wangari, CGTN.
Well, before we go, let's take a quick look at how Africa's currencies performed. We saw South Africa's rand firmer today against the dollar as focus locally shifts to business confidence data. However, traders do say that continued uncertainty about the outcome of US-China trade talks did keep big bets at bay today. Well, that's it for this edition of Global Business Africa. Remember, you can send your feedback to the contacts on your screen. You can also follow us on our various digital media platforms. From me, Uche Okoronkwo, and the rest of the team, thanks for watching.